Hello, my name is Daniel, and this is a dubbing for Andres Cervantes from ArquiCultura. In this video, we will learn about the history of the Roman Colosseum. We begin in the year 68 after Christ, when Nero was ruling in Rome. He raised taxes to build a palace, which, among other things, featured a colossal statue. This led to unrest in Judea, and Nero sent Vespasian to pacify the Jewish people. But the following year, Nero exceeded the limits of tyranny, and the Senate declared him an enemy of the empire. Before facing execution, Nero committed suicide. Amidst instability and constant changes of emperors, the Senate summoned Vespasian, who entered Rome to be proclaimed emperor. The first problem he had to face was a population reluctant to accept their rulers. Therefore, he decided to build the most impressive entertainment space in the world. The chosen location was not random. Vespasian had the exclusive palace of Nero demolished and, on its side, erected the colossal structure. Normally, a theater had a semicircular shape and was used from one side. However, this is an amphitheater. The prefix amphi means both sides, like amphibians that can live in water and on land. In other words, an amphitheater is a theater that can be used from both sides. The place was named the Flavian Amphitheater, declaring that the Flavian dynasty had reached the height of power. Due to the presence of a large statue of Nero, called the Colossus of Nero, the amphitheater began to be called the Colosseum, a name that would later be used to refer to all kinds of enclosed venues for sports events or public spectacles. The exact location for building this structure had to be flat, and the only area that met these conditions was a lake. To drain the lake, a trench was dug around it, deeper than the lake itself. This was done so that when the lake was connected to a canal through pipes, the water could be drained from the lake to the canal and from there to the Tiber River, just over a kilometer away from here. Additionally, a drainage system was implemented to prevent the Colosseum from flooding in the future. A second problem was that Nero had practically bankrupted the empire, and constructing the Colosseum required a significant amount of money and manpower. However, increasing taxes would only turn the Romans against the new emperor. To obtain the necessary resources, Vespasian ordered his son Titus to attack Jerusalem and plunder the legendary treasures of its temple. But not only treasures arrived from Jerusalem, but also slaves. However, these slaves would not be involved in the construction of the Colosseum. A skilled labor was needed for this task, and there was no time to train them. The slaves and treasures were sold, and with those resources, the best builders in the empire could be hired. For the construction, travertine blocks were used, a stone extracted from the quarries of Tivoli, around 35 kilometers from Rome. But these blocks were not joined with a traditional mortar made of lime and sand. Instead, a different mixture of lime and volcanic sand, known at that time as opus signinum, was used, which is now called concrete. The key to success was standardization. The facade of the Colosseum consists of 80 identical modules, forming an ellipse. Standardization allowed for large-scale work with minimal supervision, since each team had to repeat the same process for each module. The outer ring is composed of 3 tiers of arches adorned with the 3 main orders of classical architecture. The first level has columns of the Tuscan order, a variation of the Doric order. The second level has columns of the Ionic order, recognizable by the volutes on the sides. The third level features columns of the Corinthian order, famous for their acanthus leaf decorations. After that, there were several concentric rings with arches. These rings decrease in height as they approach the center of the amphitheater, ensuring that all spectators could comfortably view the spectacle. Unlike automobiles or cell phones, which have drastically changed over a few decades, this spatial distribution remains relevant even after 2,000 years. To support the seating, radial structures with arches and vaults were constructed. With this in place, let's explore what the Colosseum represented for Roman society. The amphitheater has 80 entrances, of which only 76 were numbered. According to a citizen's social class, they had to occupy a specific place in the Colosseum and enter through a designated gate. On the higher levels, they were common citizens. Then there was an area for merchants from aristocratic families who were not interested in participating in politics but focused on making money. The lowest level was reserved for senators who actively engaged in Roman politics. Out of the 4 unnumbered gates, one was designated for the emperor's entrance, as they had their place in the lower tier of the city. The other unnumbered gates were for the gladiators, providing direct access to the combat arena. In 79 AD, Vespasian died, and his son Titus was crowned as the emperor. He constructed a 4th level where the poorer members of Roman society would be seated. This area was meant to accommodate everyone. Thus, the Colosseum was inaugurated in the year 80 AD. After Titus's death in 81 AD, his younger brother Domitian became the emperor and made 2 significant additions. The first was the Hypogeum, a labyrinthine system of chambers beneath the battleground where gladiators awaited their turn to enter the arena. It also served as a storage for stage props and, most notably, housed dangerous exotic animals brought from all corners of the empire to showcase the grandeur of the Roman Empire to its citizens. These animals were raised using a system of ramps and pulleys and released onto the field through trapdoors in the ground. The spectacle involved battles between animals, animals against gladiators, or gladiators against each other, often recreating mythical battles. The second reform by Domitian was the addition of an upper-level gallery, further expanding the capacity with wooden seating. This increased the seating capacity to approximately 50,000 spectators. At that time, it was much larger than what was commonly seen. Even today, many countries lack stadiums with such high capacity. Among the extravagances of the Colosseum, there is one that still raises doubts, and that is the drainage system used to empty the lake, which could be reversed to flood the arena, allowing, according to some accounts, the recreation of naval battles. But as I mentioned, this is not 100% confirmed. As the final element, the velarium appears, a system based on textiles to cover the amphitheater. It consisted of a series of poles around the perimeter, 3 in each of the 80 modules, making a total of 240 poles. Additionally, there were support points surrounding the Colosseum. From these support points, ropes would be raised and attached to the poles, holding up the canvas that covered the structure, leaving an opening in the middle. With this, the Flavian amphitheater was finally complete. At some point after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Colossus of Nero disappeared, although the Colosseum continued to be used as a venue for competitions until the 6th century, when a church was built inside it, and the battlefield became a cemetery. In 1084, Pope Gregory VII was expelled from Rome, and many monuments owned by the church became property of the nobles. Around the year 1200, a family took possession of the Colosseum and used it as a fortified residence. However, in 1312, the Colosseum was returned to the church. Although the monument had endured several earthquakes, in 1349, a large earthquake destabilized the structure to such an extent that the southern section of the outer ring collapsed. This marked the end of the Colosseum through a common practice of the time, reusing the materials from old monuments to build new ones. The travertine, marble, bronze, and more were gradually extracted for the construction of monuments, palaces, and churches in Rome. Meanwhile, the Colosseum had a second life as a sort of marketplace with various uses such as granaries, stables, taverns, and even dwellings. All of these activities, once disappeared, left small traces that later allowed archaeologists to identify them. There are no clear reports of any Christian martyrs dying in the Colosseum, but by the 16th century, this belief began to spread, and the place started to take on a sanctuary-like character, while the marketplace uses faded away. However, the removal of materials continued. In 1749, Pope Benedict XIV installed the Via Crucis, Stations of the Cross, in the arena of the Colosseum and consecrated the monument as a holy place in memory of the martyrs executed there, putting an end to its gradual demolition. This marked the opening of its recovery. In the 19th century, actions were initiated to preserve what remained of the Colosseum. These works involved a series of buttresses attached to the collapsed walls to provide greater stability. These buttresses, completed in 1820, were designed in a way that clearly distinguished them from the original structure but without appearing out of context, so as not to detract from the monument's prominence. There was a large buttress on the eastern end and several smaller ones on the western end. Following this, other works were carried out to consolidate the structure, which is an ongoing task of intervention. In 1980, the Colosseum was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site as part of the historic center of Rome. In 2007, the Roman Colosseum was chosen as one of the new 7 wonders of the world. And well then, that's everything for today, folks. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and share with your friends. So that you don't lose my future content, subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on my social networks, Facebook and Instagram. This was Andres Cervantes. See you next time.